What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome to the latest Gators Online Podcast. Zach Abolverdi and Nick Torre coming to you live from Spurs Gridiron Grill, and we are back together officially now in studio.
My triumphant return to the studio.
It's here. It's here. We had a great episode last week on the last name pronunciations.
That
was
a really proud moment for myself.
Honestly, I think we had to get you out of this space.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To put you in that zone. You were in your comfort zone at home.
Yeah.
So, we've got over that hurdle for Nick. And obviously now we switch gears and we're getting ready, inching closer to the 2022 season. And before we really kind of preview it next week with our following episode and kind of give you our predictions for the season, kind of how we see this 2022 Florida football team. This week, we want to focus on the brand new facility that the Gators recently moved into, and that is going to be the focus of our guest on today's show, Gators Director of Football Operations, Joshua Thompson, who had a very heavy hand in the last 6 months on the construction of this facility, worked really hand in hand with Chip Howard on the things that Billy Napier wanted change and some of the things to accommodate his Army. And so we'll talk to him about how that process came together, about the lockers, and we'll also get into a little bit of his background story.
What is a DFO? What is the Director of Football Operations? What are they doing? There's a lot of people in the Army, as we saw in the picture. What are people's jobs? So just even ask him, hey, man, what do you do here?
and also his recruiting background, too, because I think it's interesting to see he's definitely still plugged into these recruiting streets, as they say.
He's not missing a recruit, a commit, or a tweet.
No, he's not. And, we'll talk to him about some of the fun that he's had on Twitter and some of the recognition, more importantly, that he showed to some of the staff members. But before we get into Joshua talking about the facility, Nick and I are going to take the opportunity because we got a tour, Nick.
Yeah. They let us in the building.
They let us in.
They
immediately regretted it. They took us down by the pool and we hung out there and they're like, all right, guys, come on. This is a tour, not like a one hangout spot.
Yeah.
We were ready to just chill by the pool.
I'm giving myself a self-tour here.
I was trying to get a haircut. I walked in the barber shop. I was like, here we go.
You did get a haircut.
I did, but I couldn't get one there. No.
Not there.
No.
Needed our boy Valdez Showers to come back with the clippers.
We did. They will have a full-time barber in there. About 10 full-time staffers, according to Chip Howard, who gave the media the tour. And if you haven't already and you're on this Gators Online YouTube channel, make sure you go down to the previous video and watch our behind-the-scenes tour.
First off, hit like on this video, hit subscribe, then go check out the other videos.
This, that, and the third. And subscribe to Gators Online if you haven't already for the 2022 season. What are you doing? Because there's a lot happening. And all of it now is hubbed around this Heavener Center, and we got to see it up close and personal. It was incredible. We got to see pretty much every aspect of the facility, including the locker room. Only no photos or videos in there, no photos or videos in the weight room because practice was going on, and you can literally see the indoor practice field from the weight room. But, Nick, you got to feast your eyes on it. What was your impressions?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is quality of life for the people that are using it, the people that it was built for, and the efficiency. So quality of life, literally if you're a football player, you walk in, you've got a couple couches and some place to chill out to your left. The pool's out to your left. You're catching a meal to the right. You walk straight and you're immediately in your locker room. Your locker room leads to the training room where you're going to get your ankles taped, which leads to the weight room, which leads to outside to the practice facility. When you're walking back in, you've got your cold tubs. You've got your training room again. You're back in. So there's no more – man, just had a brutal 3-hour practice in 95-degree heat, and now I've got to walk my butt through traffic, across the street, down into all these other facilities. So to me, the efficiency of it and then the quality of life. We'll talk to Josh more about the lockers themselves, but my biggest thing for my 33-year-old body, which is sore, is each individual locker has a Normatec, the leg sleeves, which it provides compression, which gives you better blood flow, which will help you in your recovery.
Yeah.
Need to ask Chip or Josh if I can get one of those for the house. But each locker has that. So there's no more, hey, we've got 20 and you got to wait in line after practice to put your Normatec boots on. Once you get back to your locker, plug it in, flip a switch, put them on, you're good to go.
And when we were walking through the locker room, no smell.
Well, they've only been there a little bit.
No, well, they have the technology that he was talking about.
But I look at some of these offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and how much they're working, and I wonder how long that ventilation system will work. But we will hear about it.
Right now, brand new.
It smells brand new.
That thing's working. I mean, and there was definitely stuff on the floors and in the lockers.
Look at Zach's dry snitching on the team.
Look, man. I mean, I'm saying there was stuff in there that could have stunk it up.
That's okay.
It was in there, and there was no smell. That to me, I mean, it's the highlight, right? Like for the football team, obviously, I thought that every single walk-on getting a locker is a big deal. Like that's a $15,000 investment for a walk-on player. The investment in the meal plan for not just the walk-ons on the Florida football team, but all the athletes, scholarship or not, are now on a 3 meals a day plan. That's a huge benefit for this program, and part of the investment in the fundraising, Nick. It wasn't just, hey, we need to come up with $86 million for this facility, as we learned from Josh. We also need to be able to fund it moving forward from a food standpoint, and be able to continue to feed these athletes. Obviously, to have all the amenities and resources to run the building, their nutrition bar, and all the likings. It's just incredible to see that space. And I know it's not. This is still a football facility. It's called the Football Training Center. But as we walked in there Wednesday for Billy Napier's press conference to see just all the athletes in there, and we'll hear Josh talk about how that first day was Wednesday. But it is a nice little hub for them all to be, and it kind of creates, I think, a different environment and something that's unique to Florida, as Chip Howard talked about. They went to facilities at Alabama, Clemson, USC, Kentucky. All those football facilities didn't have a dining hall, player lounge, outdoor pool, court that all athletes could use. And that is something that separates Florida and those type of athletes mingling with each other. Like, you could have that at some other schools in the SEC, but at Florida, when you do it, you're mingling your football players with gold medal winners. And all Americans and all SEC players.
And the food thing to me, so a lot of people just don't know. You think everyone that's playing a sport at a school like Florida or in Alabama is on a full ride, because football and basketball are the sports most people know. That's a full ride. Women's basketball, full ride. The girls on the soccer team aren't on full rides. The guys on the baseball team, baseball has 11.7 scholarships for 25 guys. So nobody is on a full ride. You get $2,000 this semester, figure it out. All right, well, tuition is $1,500. So now I have $500 to buy one science book, and then everything else is on my own. And there is no meal plan. So there's hundreds of athletes who weren't on a meal plan or a free meal plan that are now getting 3 meals a day
because of this Heavener Center.
Because of the Heavener Center. Complex facility, whatever I called it. Zach had to correct me how I was incorrectly writing the Heavener place.
It's the play on the Hawkins and Heavener. You got those two centers that we talk about, something that Florida offers that other schools don't. That's another aspect of it. But that obviously stood out. I didn't know going in that all the athletes were going to be fed like that.
That was news to us on our tour.
Because as David Whitley, columnist from The Sun, it's like, well, how are you paying for that?
Yeah.
It's like you just spent all this money for the facilities. Like that's a lot of food that you're now making.
Incurring cost.
It's not going away.
Recurring cost.
And you're not taking it away either. You've set that standard. So that to me was impressive. And then obviously seeing some of the technologies in there. Nick mentioned all the different pools and stuff. The chamber.
Hydrotherapy, cryotherapy. It wasn't in yet, but they mentioned it to us. They're going to have a float tank.
Yeah.
And I know that Alabama has a dry float tank, so like a sensory deprivation chamber where the water is heated up to a normal body temperature and it has enough salt in it, so you kind of just float. And because your body is the same temperature as the water, you kind of just don't feel the water around you. And then you turn the lights off, and all of a sudden, you're having a trippy experience because there's nothing. Your body's not having to account for light or sound, or you're not feeling anything. Yeah. And that's just a way I think I've watched some videos. It's just a way to unwind. You're putting so much on these guys mentally. School, family pressure, girls, friends, playbook. I just messed up on CBS on 3:30 against Georgia, and you've got all this stuff in your mind. I think just the thing for them is they're taking care of them physically and mentally as best as they can to let them focus on being students, let them focus on being brothers, and then athletes as well.
And let's also talk about how much this benefits the Army, that is, the Billy Napier Florida coaching staff and support staff, and how much they're going to benefit also from now having basically a headquarters, and that whole second floor is like a totally different building.
Katie and Bree were sharing a room, an office, smaller than our podcast room now. Each of them got their own office now. We're walking by. I feel bad for them. It almost felt like they were in like a zoo because all the walls are glass, so you can kind of like see in the offices, and then all of a sudden there's like
all these people,
30 people walking through their office. Like, what the heck is going on?
But I mean, it is like you're downstairs and it's locker room. It's all the entrances basically to the practice field and obviously the dining hall, player lounge. But when you go upstairs, you got the Gator room, which is where we go now for media. But then once you start, you got the Gatormate offices that are over there to the left, and then you got all the coaches and support staff and recruiting staff that are all up there, and it's like a totally different field. It's a totally different world.
And then the way that stuff flows as well. If I'm a linebacker and I'm going to talk to my coach, all right, well, that leads me into my linebacker room. His office leads into the linebacker room, which leads into the team office. Yeah. Just the flow of everything. It was really thought out well.
Yeah, and that obviously kind of, I think, went to some of the change orders that went into effect, from Billy and Joshua, and utilizing as what they were called the warm shell room, which is now hatched, and they're using it for all this extra staff that they have. The one thing that we have not seen yet, and we also didn't get an opportunity to talk with Josh about this, but there is a separate area in the facility for recruiting photo shoots that has not been unveiled.
I think we'll see that in the fall, and we'll see that in the fall when some of these visits and official visits start happening.
Yeah, but I know a lot of fans thought that hallway, which we'll hear,
that ain't it.
Yeah, Josh talk about how that came to life, but a lot of people thought that's where they were going to take recruiting photos. No, they got something better than that. So that'll be interesting to see that get unveiled this fall, and still finishing touches. Still being done in there. They're not completely finished, but I think now having all the athletes be able to eat there with the start of fall classes and football season obviously right around the corner. I mean, it's a real thing for them now.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump to this break. When we come back on the other side, we'll be joined in studio by Gators Director of Football Operations, Joshua Thompson, to talk about this new $86 million facility, everything that he did with Billy to bring it to life, and how it feels to now be in their new digs. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Welcome back into the Gators Online Podcast. We're now joined by our guest of the week, Gators Director of Football Operations, Joshua Thompson. Josh, appreciate you joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to spending some time with you guys today.
He's got to be the best dressed guy in the building, in the brand new building too.
I don't want to.
You don't need to crown yourself. I'm crowning you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There's been a few things about the best dressed DFOs in the SECs, but I'll stay away from that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll stay away from that.
Well, we don't want him to boast and brag. But we're going to have a lot of things that we'll get into with Joshua today. Obviously, we'll talk about the reason mostly why he's here, as Nick mentioned, the brand new football building, the Heavener Center the Gators moved into recently. We'll talk to Josh about how that came together, some of the work that he did with Billy to make it, accommodate the Army that we saw a picture of this week as the Gators released their team photo. So we'll get into a lot of things. Josh, first of all, how does it feel to be in the new digs, man?
Feels good, working through a few things, making sure it operates the way that we want it to operate on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
But, it's amazing to drive up to that facility every day. You can't help to have a big smile on your face, even if it's 5:45 in the morning and you just left at 11 p.m. the night before, right? It's a true blessing, and, give all credit to all the donors and everyone who donated to get us to this point, and Scott Strickland and Jay Jacobs and Chip Howard and everyone who played a huge role in getting us from point A to point B. It's been a long time coming.
And as the director of football operations, when you show up here, there's the wheels are already in motion to get the building going. And Scott told us that Billy changed a couple things, but from your perspective, what was your first impression of the building, how it would change the program, and then from your job perspective, okay, well, how do I make this work efficiently so that the football team and the program is running the way it needs to?
Well, I'll attack each one of those questions one at a time. When we first arrived, everything had been halted, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
So Coach Napier can put his imprint on the building. The bones were good, though. Yeah. The location of the weight room and how it fed right into the indoor, which leads right out to the practice field, which those two had already existed. And then where the nutrition setup was going to be fueling station-wise, fuel bar-wise, and where the locker room was and equipment room, a lot of those things were already in place.
Made sense.
Yeah. It made sense from a efficiency standpoint. A big part of coach thought process was we need to make sure every transition is as seamless as possible. So there was a few things that we tightened up from a certain standpoint. So when the players would flow from the locker room to the fueling station, it would feed right into the weight room. And then same way going back, and then actually moving our dietitian, Kelsey Gomes, into the weight room so she could have that day-to-day interaction with all the guys, because our guys spend so much time in the weight room.
You're not skipping lifts, so you're getting your protein shakes right there.
Exactly. And then the other two full-time dietitians we have on staff to be sitting right outside of that, right inside the fueling station. So, hey, if you're on the weight gain and you got a shake, make sure that individual is grabbing said shake, and he can't just skip by. So some of those things changed. There was one area in the facility that it was for future growth. Didn't have a name yet. It was just called the warm shell at that point in time.
That's what I've heard, the warm shell.
Yeah, and there's some things going on in there right now.
It's hatched now.
That are being finalized. Yeah, they're being finalized. That's going to really set it apart from a lot of other facilities when it comes to an efficiency standpoint with recruiting and photo shoots and things of that nature with our creative department. So those things changed, and but I will say walking in, the bones were really good.
Now, obviously, as director of football ops, a lot of this fell on your plate. When, after being hired for this position, when did you even know that this was on the radar and that this was going to be something that you were working on? Because when I talked to Chip Howard about our preview story, he said he was basically working with you hand in hand those last 6 months.
So I will say my last day working at Auburn was December 28th. Which was the bowl game in Birmingham, and then drove on down. And December 29th, I arrived, and the first person I met was Chip. We hopped on a plane, and we flew to Dallas the Longhorn lockers to start putting different implementing different changes and things of that nature, and what exactly we wanted to execute with these state-of-the-art lockers.
Yeah.
Because this goes for the entire building as well. It wasn't about just being state-of-the-art right now. It's about always being state-of-the-art and staying ahead of the curve and doing something that no one else has done. So
Or will do.
So they'll try to try to do the same thing, but wanted to make it hard on everyone else to duplicate what we put together.
Because if you're not
they
doing
went
that,
on the job. They went on the job.
If you're not doing that, then you're looking back in 5 years, and hey, now we're out of date, and because we didn't think ahead 5 years ago when we were building this. Now we need to put another 20,000, 50,000 into this locker room because we made a mistake 5 years ago.
Right. And what you really want to do when you're putting a facility together nowadays is just stay ahead of the curve and always be implementing changes throughout the facility, and knowing that the devil is in the details, right? So small things make huge impacts. Yeah. You'll even see that in our weight room, and a lot of people have missed it. But remember the first day I was walking AR through the facility, and we're in the weight room, and he's looking at a few things that Play is who we worked with for the weight room, and looking at some of the small details, like within the actual racks, what holds the barbell. It actually has Gator scripts right inside of it, and he picked up on that detail. He was like, as a kid say that's hard. And that's when you know you're going in the right direction, right? So, just the details.
Now, you mentioned the lockers when you realized where that was headed. How unique are those, and how much do those set, the facility apart? And also talk about every guy getting a locker. Right. Walk-ons. You walk on that Florida, you're getting a $15,000 locker.
Right. Well, the first thing in talking about kind of going back, talking about some of the changes. Originally, there was 120 lockers. We expanded to 135 because of our roster size where we're going. The thing that makes it extremely unique is our relationship with Norma Tech, which originated here at the University of Florida in Hyper Ice. Each student athlete has their own set of Norma Tech boots. So you're not sharing with anyone else. There's been other SEC programs I've worked for, and they're huge in recovery. All the guys want to use them. So you would go into the training room where they're being utilized.
You got
there's a line.
7 of them,
Yeah, there's a line of guys waiting. So now we actually do some of our recovery days. The few days we've been in the new facility, our strength staff is in there doing recovery days within the locker room. And the guys are all posted up, leaning back in their zero gravity chairs, which is electric. It's not something that they have to pull a lever or anything like that.
We're not in the 1974 F-150 where you're cranking your seat back.
No disrespect to Lazy Boy, but it ain't a Lazy Boy. Zero gravity chairs leaning all the way back and being able to actually recover. And hey, if they need to take a nap in the middle of the day, they can come over here and do that without having to go back to their apartment or their dorm. So
some players are already doing that. They said it.
To me, I turned 30 and my knees started creaking. I'm an old catcher, so they were creaking for a while. But ankles, things start hurting. So to me, the Normatec would have been the biggest. But something as small as just like the wireless charger to drop your phone. What do you think the player's favorite aspect is of the locker?
I think, of course, the Normatec boots play a huge part. The charger, which also will charge their iPad, also charge their AirPods, or whatever the case may be, has been a big hit as well. But the hugest hit, especially amongst our linemen, is the ventilation system that goes throughout the entire locker.
Those guys. Smells great in there.
It smells great in there. You don't have to worry about staph infection. You don't have to worry about different things like if someone gets the flu or something like that. You don't have to worry about those things spreading out because you have this ventilation system that's going not only through their shoulder pads, but their helmets, their cleats, knee braces, you name it. They can post all those different things up in their locker and still keep it neat as well. It doesn't have to be exposed to the elements, so they can keep it neat as well. So it's always recruit ready, right? And the next day when they get to put their cleats on, they're getting ready to go out to practice, they're not soaking wet.
Now, beyond the lockers, or it could be the lockers, What was your favorite part of the construction process that you got to be a part of and witness? That you showed up at work one week when something came together and you're like, okay, this is it.
I would say sitting down with Coach and I'm going through every inch of the building and deciding on what graphics that we wanted in the facility, where we wanted them to land, how we wanted them to look. Mm-hmm. Do we want to go face lit, or do we want it to be internally lit, or do we want halo lighting? Mm-hmm. How do we implement the helmet throughout the facility and put details within that? I know a lot of people. So I know a lot of people. It was kind of like a eureka moment. Me and Coach were standing in the old facility in the staff room, and we got the entire staff table spread out with over 250 sheets of renderings of what we're going to do. It's kind of like putting a house together, but it's 142,000 square feet, right? So, and we got to that hallway and was like, you know what? It'd be really sweet if we could do some LED lighting, make it look like the helmet, put the stripe down the middle of the hall, just kind of lead. Oh, and we're going to put an LED board to the right. And oh my gosh, the things that we can do with this. And then to see those things come to fruition is amazing. And I will say the thing that really made me extremely happy was the day we went in and did the reveal and just the reaction from the guys. That's what you do it for. Mm-hmm. It's about this student-athlete experience. They only have one opportunity to go through this thing. Mm-hmm. And you want it to be something that's so impactful that it impacts the rest of their life, that one day maybe in their mind, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be a trainer, or I'm going to be a coach, or I'm going to be an administrator. Administrator, a DFO, or working recruiting, or whatever the case may be, so that they can have that same impact on other young men or potential young ladies as well.
And there's a locker waiting for them too.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, we did not have a DFO or the donors at my D3 baseball school that y'all had. I think we shared a high school locker room, so no ventilation, that's for sure. But yeah, it's definitely a lot nicer. I wanted to get into a little bit just kind of about your job though, because you've kind of worked in different rooms, and you've worked in recruiting. You've been at Texas A&M. You've been at Auburn, so the SEC is nothing new to you. When you went to Dallas with Chip, that's not too far from home. In Fort Worth. What's been different about being a DFO versus recruiting? What do you like about each job? Because I'm guessing they're very different.
So I'll give a little bit of my background. So started off at Texas A&M working under Mike Sherman. Hired as an intern. And when I was hired, you would have thought, I just was a top 5 draft pick. I was just extremely excited to have an opportunity. Very happy to be in the building. So when I was hired by the DFO at the time, Gary Reynolds, who has since passed away, Gary told me, hey, hitting us at a great time. We're number 8 in the country. Got Cyrus Gray as our running back. We got Ryan Tannehill as our quarterback. We got a good team. And it's like, man, this is going to be great. And then as our last year in the Big 12, it's announcing that, we're going to get into the SEC, and Coach Sherman gets fired. And I'm running around the building, bright eye, bushy tail, like, oh, who are we going to hire? Some of the coaches are looking at me like, dude, we just got fired. But I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I'm my first year of grad school, so I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah. So Kevin Sumlin was hired. Got to meet him on his first day. Once again, acting like I had a job right up to him. No fear.
That's that youthful ignorance.
It's just green.
You don't know
you're just so green. So I just charged right to him, tell him who I am.
This is what I do here at your program.
What I do. So excited to have you, Coach.
Glad you joined us.
Yeah. And for some reason, he took a liking to me, and I ended up moving from an operations intern to a recruiting assistant. Yeah. Ended up being his day-to-day guy for recruiting. Did that for 2 more years. Graduated from grad school. At that entire time, I wasn't compensated for those 3 years to work at Texas A&M. Yeah. So I had 2 other jobs. I worked at a apartment complex, and I worked at a grocery store overnight. That way, I could pay my bills. Sure. And
not
be a part of the
program. Grad school bills, real bills.
Yeah. So with that being said, I was saying my goodbyes because, I had to leave, had to go find a job. I've graduated. Yeah. Coach Sumlin comes out of his office and says to me, "What are you doing? Where are you going? You got a job somewhere else?" I was like, "Oh, no, I don't even work here. I don't have a job." At that point in time, he kind of lost it on the DFO at the time. And that's how I got my first job, $24,000 a year. Once again, thought I was rich. Thought I was a top 5 draft pick. Felt good, $1,200 a month. Went a long way. Quit those other 2 jobs. So I worked for Coach Sumlin, had a great experience. Of course, he was let go from Texas A&M. Coach Fisher came in, worked for him for about a month or so. And this is when I was able to connect with Coach Napier. Coach Hockey was our strength coach that last year at Texas A&M. Yep. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, you looking for a job?" And this is me still, kind of green, being like, "Yeah, sure, I guess. I don't know." And he was like, "Okay, I got something for you." And the next day, someone with a really deep Southern accent called me. I was like, "Hey, I'm Billy Napier, head coach for the Raging Cajuns in Louisiana. Wanted to talk to you. Coach Hockey speaks really highly of you." Went down, met with him. He hired me on. This was in 2018. Left Texas A&M. It was time to leave the nest anyway, right? Yeah. Had an incredible year and a half working with him. It was really hard when Chad Morris called me from Arkansas to come run the recruiting and personnel department. Take on both of those jobs. It was really hard to leave Coach Napier at that point in time, but he was amazing, like he is on a day-to-day basis. Told me it was going to make me better. So I left, went to Arkansas. Coach Morris was let go. Coach Pittman came in. He retained me, which I'm forever grateful for that, to give me opportunity, young man. He didn't know from Adam. Yeah. So worked for Arkansas for another year. Then I got a call from Auburn, and it was a connection that I had made while I was at Louisiana. And, got to meet the head coach there. I got hired, got to work there for 11 months. And throughout all that time, continued to always communicate with Coach Napier whenever he called, took his call. And whenever I called him, he would take my call, wishing them luck, following the Cajuns and all those different things. But with that being said, when he called me about this gig, I was on the first thing smoking. I knew it was about 4 hours and 48-minute drive from Auburn, Alabama to Gainesville, Florida, and I was looking forward to make it. So as far as the differences between the 2 positions, recruiting and personnel is awesome because I love to evaluate and love to find guys that, a few people miss. I know y'all enjoy doing that in y'all's role as well. So love that aspect of it. But you still get to evaluate in operations too. Yeah. You're just evaluating in a different way. You're evaluating staff members. Sure. You're evaluating coaches and things of that nature. So there's still some evaluation in that. And then from recruiting aspect, it's not much to miss because you're still recruiting. Everybody in the building recruits. Because if you don't recruit, you die. Right? So recruiting is the livelihood of your program. So everybody's a part of it. I'm sure y'all see that on Twitter when certain people tweet. I don't know who has the best tweets on staff, but we'll get to that. So everybody recruits. You continue to recruit, and every day it is recruiting, especially with the transfer portal now. Yeah. So the student athlete experience of your current athletes has to be amazing because maybe thinking there's greener pastures elsewhere, right? Yeah. But on the operations point, you're able to plan. And you're able to prepare for certain things and also know you have to be able to adjust on the fly. And when you're adjusting on the fly, you're really adjusting not only for yourself, but a travel party of 198 people most of the time. Yeah. Right? So you make one mistake. Y'all probably sitting on a tarmac for 45 minutes.
With a bunch of unhappy people.
With a bunch of unhappy people who can say you got a job or not in 6 months. So, but I really enjoy the operations aspect of being able to plan, implement a plan, having a plan come to fruition. Those things really excite me. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Do those things fall into the team's going to go to a hotel next day? Like a week from today, or a week from tomorrow, y'all be getting ready to go to a hotel. Are you got to know the route, booking rooms, know the route? when you all go to Tennessee in a month.
Right. So, y'all want a detailed story? I can give you a detailed story that just actually happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a detailed story. So we're gonna go to the movies the night before a game. Mm-hmm. We play later,
right?
The next day. So the movie theater that we're gonna utilize on next Friday. Went to do a site visit. Even though I've been to this theater before, I didn't have my operations lens on. So I had to go there with my operations lens.
Sure.
Get there. The actual theater, like exact theater they were going to have us in, was going to probably more than likely have a few guys that I have to sit in the front row because the capacity wasn't what we needed it to be. Yeah. So, okay, can't use this room because of that. Second thing that comes up, our buses. Where are we going to stop the buses for our team egress to go right into the theater? Yeah. Well, it was going to be right smack dab in the middle of the street, not the back of the theater. Mm-hmm. So let me find a theater in here that has the capacity that we need, that we can also line up the buses in the back, and maybe we don't have to move the buses at all. So then I don't have to worry about giving a 15-minute warning to the buses to stage. So
Nick,
details.
Nick couldn't handle all those details.
No.
Or could I, to be fair.
Details.
Yep.
So just keeping things like that in mind. And I can even go back to last year, the last place I worked, and we couldn't stay in the hotel that we were going to stay in when we went to go play LSU. Mm-hmm. So immediately, okay, where else can we stay that's close to Baton Rouge? I have roots in Lafayette because I worked there for a year and a half. The Doubletree Hotel. Let's see if the Raging Cajuns, because that's where they stay for their home games. Let's see if they're out of town. Nice hotel, a lot of ballroom space.
See, if that would have been
out of town,
he would have taken the team to New Orleans.
Yeah, you would have
missed the bus back to Baton Rouge.
They would have for you the next day.
They would have just left me. They wouldn't have looked for very long.
Yeah, so just knowing that we could utilize that one, but also knowing that there's a bridge that goes from right outside of Lafayette into Baton Rouge, and if you get caught up in any shape or form, you're stuck. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the celebration that happened in that squad car as we're pulling across that bridge and we see the stadium, it was as if we had won the game already.
Holding your breath.
Yeah. We're holding our breath for that. So just details. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the things that I really love about operations. And you really have to work for a head coach that understands logistics and gives you time to map out those things and make sure things are, detailed and right for everybody.
For sure. We're speaking with Gators Director of Football Ops, Joshua Thompson. Got a couple more questions for him to wrap up. You mentioned the details, and you said the devil's in the details with that new $85 million facility.
86. And counting.
Some more change orders. You've been obviously at Texas A&M, at Auburn. Yep. You've visited so many SEC campuses. To see this facility here for Florida, how much of a game changer is it, especially for someone like you that knows what else is out there?
It's a significant game changer, of course, from the day-to-day operations. To know that for the past 20 years, the team has had to walk from the stadium across a parking lot to the practice fields.
How long was that walk for?
It's about 600 yards. There and back. So, I mean, it just stacks up.
Sure.
And then from a transition standpoint, a timing standpoint, it throws off a lot of different things. So instead of having a 5-minute transition that we have now, it was a 20-minute transition, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of time lost.
Yeah. That's 15 minutes. That's 30 minutes a day. That stacks up. That's like 60 hours in a season.
Miles on the legs, too.
Yes. A lot of miles on our student athletes' legs. And the one thing you hear all the time, save your legs. Yeah. Kind of hard to preach that when, all right, coach, we got to walk over here. It's 95 degrees and I'm carrying my helmet and my shoulder pads. And
just practice for all these hours.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, from a transition standpoint, it's making life a lot more easier for us and more efficient for us on a day-to-day basis. From a recruiting standpoint, it makes a difference because when young men come on campus now, they can see themselves, like literally see themselves. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is going to be my locker.
It's not a picture anymore.
This is
not showing them a rendering.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to eat. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, there's a lot of programs that say, "Oh, we're going to take care of your son. Mm-hmm. We're going to take care of your daughter." This is showing that we're putting our money where our mouth is, right? Like it's actually coming to fruition. And even yesterday, the entire facility being opened up on the first day of classes to all the student athletes, and just to see the interactions that was happening down there.
On 524 meal plans, too.
Yes, but to see the actual interactions that have probably been lost these past 20, 30 years that have not been able to come to fruition because, you know, basketball's eating over here and football's eating over there and track is over there. And, you know, to see everybody
have their hub.
Yeah, it's a bit of a melting pot. And it was great to see baseball players sitting with football players and, you know, track athletes sitting with a tennis athlete and so on and so forth. It was just awesome to watch. And, of course, we got All-Americans and Olympians walking around all over the place.
It's like Chip said, you can see a Heisman contender and an Olympic medalist sitting there.
Sitting right there,
eating scrambled eggs on a Thursday morning.
You don't get that at most schools.
No, you don't. No, you don't at all. Hopefully they can give me some tips on getting stronger or faster.
So you can give some folks maybe some tips on your social media game. Our final question for you. You mentioned best tweeter on the staff. Listen, man.
I don't want no beef when I go back to the office now. You're going to create some beef for me.
First of all, I love that because of your recruiting roots, you still, you know, get a kick out of when you guys land commits and you poke fun at the recruiting writers. But can you fill us in on how many videos you got saved?
What's the drafts?
Where do you find these videos, man? How do you know when you're gonna release them? It's fun to follow, man.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. As you can tell, I'm a planner.
Yeah, there we go.
So it's always good to have a plan, right?
Yeah.
Jacob LaFrance, director of player personnel, was actually talking about that the other day. He said exactly what you just said. Where do you find these videos from? Man, it just kind of comes to me, man. It's like Rain Man. You know, it's just natural. But I will say, for me, all jokes aside, I really wanted to draw more attention to our support staff.
Yeah.
So you'll probably see strategically, I don't too much mention the coaches. And they do a great job. They do a phenomenal job. And they're always on the horn. I mean, even when they have off time in July, they're working, they're recruiting, you know. But our support staff, they work their butts off. Yeah. So from Katie Turner to Bree Wade to Sierra Griffin to Jacob LaFrance to Chase Clark to Ross Bears to there's so many. Yeah, Joe Hamilton, Nick McDonald. Yeah. Andrew Burkett, who just left to go be the DPP at in the Sun Belt at James Madison. I mean, there's a lot of people that put a lot of work in. So I always want to, show them a little love too, because it takes a village.
Yeah,
really
does. It's like you said when you're at A&M, you got the job. There's a lot of people making $24,000. Fans get mad at coaches when a coach gets fired and they get a $6 million buyout. And it's like, well, there's 40 people in the building making a lot less than that and aren't getting a buyout that are looking for a new job. So I think us knowing that and us having relationships with some of those people, we really appreciate that. You put some shine on people who normally wouldn't have that shine on them.
Mm-hmm. Keep the tweets coming, man.
Maybe.
I want to see the draft. I want to see the drafts folder. I know you've saved some stuff in the drafts.
It's pretty full. It's locked and loaded. But I feel like you may try to slide a few from me. So you'll beat me to the punch.
You added that.
You guys know stuff before we do.
Quick.
But you added that Usher one. You like pretty quick.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So, listen, man, we've been watching and waiting for the facility. It's finally here. Congratulations on all the hard work, and best of luck this season, man. And appreciate the time today.
Well, I appreciate it, and just know we just getting started.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to jump to this break. We'll come back on the other side and wrap up the Gators Online Podcast.
Go Gators.
Looking for more reasons to celebrate? We have them here at Celebration Point. Enjoy some of the newest additions to our already celebratory lineup, like Dave & Buster's, Le Macaron, and Prime and Pearl. There's always a reason to celebrate. Join us anytime for any occasion. Celebration Point, where Gators come to celebrate.
Welcome back into the Gators Online Podcast, live from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Appreciate Joshua for joining us in the last segment. Talk about the facility and a little bit about his background. Cool to hear about all the stops that he's made and have it all kind of lead to Florida now. Talk about first day on the job, right?
I didn't want to put him on the spot either. He's a double Aggie grad.
Yeah.
He doesn't wear the ring. That's a big thing for Texas A&M. Didn't want to put him on the spot, but I'm sure he's happy to get back there and be on the other side. Might be a little weird for him, but it's not who's writing the checks anymore.
Yeah. But he was telling me to get ready for the crowd noise because I haven't been there.
Yeah, I was there. 19 million people per Dan Mullen were at that game with me. It was wild. But I'm looking forward to getting to Texas A&M again and really experiencing it because obviously that 2020 season was weird.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to get into some football talk here now. The Gators have wrapped up training camp. They are now basically in game week mode, except not doing it on their, Monday through Friday. They're doing, Monday on a Wednesday and Tuesday on a Thursday.
Tuesday, yeah. It's hard to follow.
Yeah. But, this falls on Josh's plate of just making sure everything is ready for Utah week. We did see this week the Gators put out their team photo for the 2022 season.
900 people.
Man, the full scope of Billy's Army came into focus. Mm-hmm. And I think Ross Dellinger from SI, one of the first people to put out all the counting up that he did, 140 blue polos versus 116 player jerseys. Quite the ratio. Now, Billy tried to downplay that and say that there were some student workers in there, but I looked in the photo. Most of those folks in there were full-time or they're on the staff directory site. There wasn't a lot of them in there, but to have 140, that's kind of what he said his Army would be at with interns. And it's just impressive to see, especially when you look back at some of the previous team photos from years past, and there's 30, 40 coaches or staffers, should I say.
It's total.
Completely.
Total.
100 staff difference.
And it's interesting because it's, there's been some jokes about it. Billy even joked, his brother sent him a text where it was photoshopped and they photoshopped
3 rows.
3 more rows of people. But the University of Florida, some have accused Jeremy Foley and Scott Strickland of being stingy. Billy came in and said, this is what I need. These are the people I need. These are what their titles are going to be, what their jobs are going to be, and this is what they're going to do for the program and why I need them to be successful here. Yeah. And if you did not make a compelling case, if you didn't give an accurate description, Scott would have said, no, that's ridiculous. You don't need 140 blue polos in your team photo. So you have to trust that there's a reason why they're there. And
look, 140 blue polos, 524 meal plans, $86 million, $65 million on a ballpark.
Can't hide money, bro. Can't hide money.
The upgrades they did for softball, for soccer, their facilities master plan that's now complete.
No, not yet. We got Ben Hill Griffins.
Yeah, but that wasn't part of their master plan, though.
That's going to be the most expensive of it all.
That's the next phase. But just obviously, they're putting their money where their mouth is, as Joshua said. And to have that investment from a staffing standpoint, specifically for football.
For sure.
From a facility standpoint, specifically for football. But now you got it benefiting all of the student athletes. You got other programs that have gotten facility upgrades here in the last 5 years. That's why they win, Nick.
That's why they better win. I think any excuses that you might have had before.
Hockey said they're out.
They're out. There's no more. Jim McElwain said, I question if the administration is committed. Dan Mullen said, we're behind, but we're getting there, but we're behind. And you're not behind anymore. No. There's no more excuses. So Billy's gotten everything he's wanted now. And as we sit here recording, we're less than 10 days away from the first game. And I think you get some cushion in your first year, but the excuses are out.
Yes.
You're on at least a level playing field, if not a leg up from everyone else off the field.
Yeah, they definitely they're on steroids basically when it comes to the support staff. But you can't say, looking at the rest of the college football landscape and where some of those other elite programs that you're trying to get to, where they're at. Billy joked that he thought on team photo day, Alabama hid some of their staffers away. Just not let you know how big Saban's army was. But going kind of more back into camp, as the Gators wrapped up this week, we saw some good news for the team as the Gators welcome back a trio of projected starters back to the practice field on Tuesday, the day after our facility tour. Ricky Pearsall, Jason Marshall, Ethan White, all back in regular jerseys, fully participating after missing time in camp, nursing various injuries. I think, obviously, Pearsall getting back was the biggest deal. I think Ethan White, Jason Marshall, they both played at Florida. I think they're acclimated into the routine, even though it is a new staff. I think for Pearsall coming over as a transfer, not getting a spring, it's so key for him to get this camp, to get time in practice, just to be able to gel with this team and these players.
I mean, what did he miss? 85%?
Yeah, I mean, he had 1 day or 2 days, I think, in full pads. So for him to be back, and Nick reported that he, or first reported, should I say, that he kind of was going through some exercise drills and stuff at the end of last week. But to now see him take that next step, I mean, he looked good going through the drills that we saw.
Putting that left foot that had been hurt into the ground to cut back or dig or to run routes.
Now you give him time to learn the playbook some more.
The big thing to me was you can learn the playbook by being at practice and watching.
Yeah, or film study.
You can't learn timing with Anthony Richardson by standing next to the wide receivers as they go through drills. You have to be running the routes and you have to be doing that stuff.
Especially and then the speed and physicality of SEC defenders. You get acclimated to that.
Yeah, I didn't think I would say this when he got here, but I think Ricky Pearsall completely changes Florida's offense. They have a bunch of guys, in my opinion, wide receivers who are the same guy. I think Justin Shorter, Xavier Henderson, and Dejon Reynolds, I think they're all the same type of receiver. Florida didn't have a Ricky Pearsall. As much as I love Trent Whittemore and think he's a great player,
and a great quote. He's not the same skill set as Ricky Pearsall.
Florida doesn't have that same style. They don't have that same kind of player. And when he left, when Ricky wasn't able to go in the first scrimmage, and we got notes back that the defense won the day, I'm like, the defense probably won the day because the offense is a lot different without one of their biggest weapons.
Yeah, and he, the other thing too, I think for the fans and their excitement, they know obviously what Jason Marshall can do, and they know what Ethan White can do. They haven't seen Ricky.
And it wasn't like when you said getting him back was the biggest one. My first thought was,
Jason Marshall too.
You'd be really down without Jason Marshall, but you have more depth at cornerback. You got Avery Helm. You've got Jalen Kimber. I was just blanking on Jalen Kimber's name.
Jordan Young. You got Jordan Young, first team reps. Devin Moore's got first team reps.
Guys there. You don't have other guys that you can say, okay, they can do what Ricky's doing.
Yeah.
So that's where I stopped myself from cutting you off, being like, well, no, you're right. Getting Ricky back is probably the biggest one.
And I think also, too, just with the injuries, we heard hamstring from Marshall and was like, okay, he's precautionary. They want to make sure he's –
put him on ice until September 3rd.
But with Ricky, he's sitting there in a boot, and he's day-to-day. You don't know. To me, that was more, I guess, concerning.
Yeah.
Now you look at both of those guys and should be ready to go for Utah. Ethan White definitely was going to be ready to go. That was kind of a minor thing. So those three getting back was huge. And then there was another trio that got singled out by Coach Nape in the press conference. And Nick, you wrote about that. And our Gators Online readers love to see that story, judging by our Google Analytics.
Young players are always backup quarterbacks and freshmen.
Oh, man. But I thought that said something that he named those three guys like that.
Yeah, I think the one, two are redshirt freshmen, but I think one that has been someone who has really taken advantage of the opportunities that they were given is Shamar James. And he wasn't here in the spring.
Yeah.
But at one point, Ventrell Miller missed a bunch of practices.
Missed practices.
Which gave Shamar a bunch of opportunities. Amari Burney has been in a non-contact jersey for almost 2 weeks now, missed the second scrimmage, and it's Shamar James that's taken those first-team reps, not a Derek Wingo or a DeJuan Black. It's a guy who's been on campus for 6 weeks who has shown enough that the coaching staff says, yeah, if one of these two starters is down, you're next up.
Yeah.
Either one of my guys. So to me, that's a really big thing for Florida, because my biggest question marks for the Gators are stopping the run, defensive tackle, nose tackle, linebackers, and what happens if Bernie or Miller goes down. You saw how detrimental it was to the defense last year when Miller went down, and you're already seeing Shamar James as a guy that the coaching staff brings up as we don't want either of those guys to go down, but if they do, we feel good about putting 6 in.
And I think they feel good about Wingo too. I think he's a guy that, some of that too is also with, and they talked to that, Amar did about that. Is, I think some of that was purposely done too with the repping that, they wanted Shamar to watch those guys. Like, don't go behind, some of the underclassmen in reps, because maybe they're not doing it right. Watch the guys that have been here, seniors. So that also kind of signaled to us early in camp, like, okay, they want this guy to be ready to play. And according to Billy, he is.
It reminded me of Antonio Morrison, because I remember when Antonio Morrison got to Florida, he was still like 17 years old. And they immediately put him behind, was it John Bostic at the time?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was Jelani Jenkins. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they put him there and they're like, you're going to have to play. Watch this guy. We like what he does. Do that.
Yeah, Florida State's quarterback found that out too.
that was EJ?
Yeah.
I think it was EJ Manuel.
Yeah. And
found out quick.
And also, I mean, Sapp, he's been getting a lot of buzz out of camp.
STA Pride?
Look, he's looked like a man possessed in drills and what we've got to see during the viewing period. So it's not a surprise to me to hear Billy single him out, nor is it with Austin Barber. He's a guy that's really been making noise since the spring in terms of a guy that really took some leaps with this new staff and really developed his game. So those three.
And he's a guy that I think because Billy keeps talking about it, who's your next tackle? Who's your next inside guy? Barber's a guy who has played guard. And when Richard Garage went down, he was playing with the first team at left tackle. So this is a guy who I think, if you're looking for a swing player, this is a guy that you I don't know how comfortable you feel putting him at all 4 positions, but he's got time at both guard spots, both tackle spots, and could be a guy that if somebody goes down, you start having to plug in place a guy that could plug in place in a couple spots.
Yeah. And Billy said, look, I view this guy as a starter. He might not start on Saturday, but when we put him in there, we feel like there's not going to be a drop off. So I think that's key for them. Another thing before we wrap up here is we kind of learned Florida's backup quarterback situation with Billy revealing that he's expecting Jack Miller to miss the first 2 games with the same thumb injury that Drew Brees had. And that left us with the question, okay, well, who's going to be the backup? And I think a lot of people said, well, probably Kitna. Then if not Kitna, your other scholarship quarterback, Max Brown. Well, not so fast. STA Pride, we're going to keep it rolling because we got another contender, Nick. Engel is been having a great camp and got some opportunities to run the second team offense in the scrimmage. Completed a handful of passes from what we were told, and he's right there competing with Kitna as the backup. Billy said that Max has done some things, but just as a rookie, he's not there yet to be ready to throw into the fire as a backup role. So I think part of what has allowed Engel to make a move is Kitna being out, obviously, in camp. He finally is back. He played in the scrimmage on Saturday, but I think there is still, as Billy said, competition to be had about who's going to be that next guy behind Anthony. So, but look, he's a guy that played at STA, led them to state title. He's been on campus for a long time. So if they feel like can run the offense, at the very least, the Gators have another option there. But besides Kitna,
I was just looking it up. Had a text from somebody back home. Said, good, smart kid, hardest worker he's ever seen. Also an engineering major.
Oh, something to be said about that. I had one person tell me from the scrimmage, look, I don't know X's and O's, but that kid ran the offense and knows what he's doing. So that's a big part of playing quarterback, Nick.
Yeah, sure is.
So listen, we'll be back next week. We appreciate Joshua Thompson for joining us. We had to highlight this facility, but look, next week all the focus goes to the games and to the football that's going to be played. We're going to get some football this weekend, Nick. I'm looking forward to that. We'll be back at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill next Thursday to give our preview of the 2022 season, record predictions, thoughts on the Utah game, and much more from Nick and I. Appreciate Josh for joining us, and we'll see you guys next week.